Aristotle said that the world does not know the nothing. He called it the horror vacui, the fear of emptiness. I find it remarkable that this term was later used to describe artists' urge to fill gaps in their paintings. Who could have guessed how right Aristotle was? The world hates the nothing, and it avoids it by any means. We began to investigate the vacuum after we began to doubt the theory of ether. They wanted to know what the void is in which the Earth and the other planets are drifting. And like the eyes that seek out into the night, we slowly got used to the darkness. After the experiments of Blaise Pascal, the famous Magdeburger hemispheres were certainly the most impressive demonstration of the vacuum. We understood the power of nothing as the inventor of the air pump made 16 horses pull apart the halves of the sphere to separate it. You know, they were held together by a partial vacuum inside, or more precisely by negative air pressure. As he then opened the valve and released the vacuum, the shells were simply falling apart. You see? And 300 years later, Casimir applied an effect that had been known in sailing for centuries and was able to prove that even in a vacuum, between two circuit boards, as in the sea between two ships that approach each other, a suction happens. And he assumed that the void therefore could not be empty. find these vacuum fluctuations. It is full of particles and antiparticles that are come into existence under the visible range and kill each other instantly. The vacuum is all what's left after we took away everything we can take away. Like the air or the things and radiation. But there is a residue which can never be polarized. It is like when you want to find out if there is still something in a supposedly empty beer can, but without looking directly into it. You can take a new can with the same volume and drink a tiny sip, and then fill the rest of its content into the old can. If it overflows, you know that it wasn't empty. In the sum, the vacuum is a big zero. But underneath, there is an eternal noise that reminds us that wherever we look, that nothing does not exist.
So now we know that there are things, and that some of the things can contain nothing. But if you picture a thing, let's say a photo, you always picture nothing too. It is hiding behind the thing in the picture, and that's why you can't see it. Everything reaches out in two directions, one into the world and one into the void. Take that box, for example. You would say that, although there is much more nothing than boxes in this picture. Here you see a footprint, a trace of something that's not there anymore. This is something you know nothing about. This is the towel that looks like it's wrapped around something that we could not see. We wouldn't even imagine this if the towel wouldn't fall this way. Or maybe the towel covers the thing, and we were able to see it if the towel wasn't there. Yeah, here I will say nothing. It's obvious. This is the Japanese sign called Mu. It represents the empty mind. It's a bit similar to the thing you've known nothing about before, right? This is a shovel. You can make a hole with it. People will think that you have done nothing, but you would have wasted a lot of time. This is a picture that's empty. I use it when it's hard to find an image. This is a picture of the empty picture. I think it should point out that even nothing has its limits. This is a picture of real nothing. But unfortunately it's turned in a way that we can't see anything. This is the projector. Everything that exists is represented as a picture in its carousel. Oh, shit. I forgot that those things can happen. Do you want to leave your garden today? With all that green grasses? When I tell you today what the nothing really is? Do you know what a fetish is? Could be rather anything. But it's typically a thing which is believed to have supernatural powers, or a thing said to have properties it doesn't have. It's quite usual for many cultures that fetishes are the disease and the remedy at the same time. And the most powerful ones are not even objects which can be stolen or destroyed. But they are ideas, for they are untouchable. And the greatest fetish of all is the nothing. Unlike all the others, the nothing claims nothing but to have a certain quality, namely that it simply exists. Which it doesn't. And by doing so, it enters our minds as the remedy for an illness we all suffer from. Our bias for the existence of the